program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
Good evening and welcome to our candidate forum. We appreciate your attendance tonight to learn more about these candidates and their positions on various issues that affect our community. The event tonight is sponsored by the Eau Claire Leader Telegram, WQOW News 18, Valley Media Works, Wisconsin Public Radio, and the Eau Claire Area Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate Chippewa Valley Technical College making this space available for our event this evening. My name's Dean Collenbach. I'm the Regional Manager for Wisconsin Public Radio here in Western Wisconsin. It's our practice with these forums to rotate the moderator's role among the event sponsors, and for this event, it's my turn. Our format tonight is to begin with a question and answer session with the candidates, and then after a short break, probably by around 8 o'clock this evening, the candidates will move to the tables around the room, and you'll have the advantage of an informal opportunity to meet them and to ask them your questions or let them know where you stand on the issues. Now to begin the candidate forum. This year there are 10 candidates on ballot for at-large positions on the Eau Claire City Council. At the April 2nd election, the top 5 vote-getters will be elected to 3-year terms on the council. Also coming up on April 2nd, City of Eau Claire voters will elect a city council president to fill a 1-year unexpired term, and voters in the Eau Claire Area School District will elect 3 members to the school board. For tonight's at-large candidate forum, we welcome the following candidates who we have seated in alphabetical order: Kirk Ausman, Kate Beaton, Laura Benjamin, Catherine Emanuel, David Klinkhammer, John Lohr, Kate Martin, Donald Motzing, Dale Pointer, and Kyle Woodman. The following are the guidelines for the forum. The questions that will be asked tonight were available to the candidates 1 hour prior to the start of the forum. Candidates are seated alphabetically. Questions will be rotated in a manner that changes which candidate answers first and the order of the answers. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer each question, unless otherwise indicated. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to provide a closing statement. The timekeeper will be keeping 1 minute, 30-second, and stop signals for the candidates. And because of time limitations, there won't be an opportunity in this event for questions from the audience. Again, however, plan to stay for the meet and greet, where you will have time to individually speak with the candidates. So we're ready for the first question, and for this question, we'll start with Kirk Ausman and then work our way down the tables to Mr. Woodman in order. So the first question is this: one of the challenges of an expanding local government base and workforce is an adequate and affordable supply of housing for both renters and first-time buyers. City officials are participating in a housing task force seeking to address this issue. What is the City Council's role in ensuring a sufficient supply and acceptable quality of housing? And Mr. Ausman, we start with you.
The city can do some things. They're kind of limited. We kind of want to avoid public housing projects. They tried them in the 1960s. They did not seem to work out. They created ghettos. So what we need to do is spread out the existing housing and identify possibly older properties that may be in need of repair, but the city can help with explaining what needs to be done, how to meet the building codes, working with the realtor, the developer, and the buyer to make sure that they can find financing for whatever project they want, whether they get directed to some low interest loans through some government agency like Housing and Urban Development block grants, or if they can go somewhere else. But we need the city to be able to help find those places and point them out to the people. And I think that by speaking with some people while I was going door to door, I found a young gentleman on the north side in a very nice little house. And I asked him, well, how long have you lived here? And he said, well, I've been here 10 years. And I said, well, you like the neighborhood? And he said, I really like the neighborhood, and it's affordable. It was a nice little house that he could move his family into and fix it up. But that's the kind of thing we have to point out and help them find. Thank you.
Thank you. When I was first elected, or before I was first elected to the Eau Claire City Council 3 years ago, I kept hearing this recurring theme that poverty was not within the purview of our city. That was something that I knew then, and I know that now I fundamentally disagree with, that it is our moral obligation as a government and as a community to make sure that everyone is taken care of in our city. And I don't think we've been working on it, but it's not happening yet. And so I've been really proud that in just a few short years, I have heard that rhetoric change. We went from poverty not being within the purview of our city to it being the #1 issue of this campaign and the #1 issue of our city council as we're working on right now. We've brought everyone to the table on this issue by creating an affordable housing task force that has brought people like developers and people with lived experience and landlords and everybody who kind of touches this issue to start to work on different policies like zoning, community benefit agreements, and some standing committees that we could institute in our city to start to address this issue of affordable housing. 46% of people in our city are housing insecure, and I think that is just unconscionable. We have 300 children who are homeless, and so I'm proud that this has been my #1 issue as well as the #1 issue of our city council so far.
Well, my name is Laura Benjamin. I just want to say a quick thanks to Chippewa Valley Technical College and to the members of the media that are here to put this event on. I appreciate the opportunity to work towards earning your vote on April 2nd. So most of anyone that's listened to me has heard me talk a lot about entrepreneurship. That was really my focus coming into the campaign, but when I learned about the affordable housing situation in Eau Claire, I looked at it as a way to create a business solution. I think about it like City Council's role isn't to dictate, but it is to facilitate. It's to take the voice of the people and understand what needs to happen in order to address some of these needs, and then work to look at rezoning areas of our city that could be improved, and look to reform ordinances that could reduce red tape and costs for a business to step in and start to address some of the supply need that's happening in our city. Along with that, part of the reason that I'm so interested in entrepreneurship is that when we have workforce development initiatives, it can help raise wages, it can help alleviate the affordability of housing in ways that aren't just by creating more units, which I do think is vitally important, but it's not just unit creation, it's also looking at wages and things like that. Because the goal here is to help people feel secure and in their housing situation and help them be able to contribute better to our entire community.
Good evening. I want to thank the community and Valley Media Works and organizers of this forum for hosting this really important conversation as we look to Election Day on April 2nd. My name is Catherine Emanuel, and I've had the honor of serving on the City Council since 2012. And I'm here to share about my perspectives and hope to earn your vote. I think it's important to share a little bit of background that helps me to make policy decisions, so I want to share a little bit about that. I have experience leading our city through service on the Redevelopment Authority, downtown Eau Claire, and I'm currently the chair of the Destination Development Committee on Visit Eau Claire, and I serve on a statewide policy group for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Aside from the service, I am a mom, a wife, a daughter, and a granddaughter, which are the best roles in our community. And you can learn more about me on Facebook, Catherine Emanuel for Eau Claire. I'm really proud to have demonstrated a long-standing history and political courage and collaboration that works towards solutions for our neighbors who struggle to keep a roof over their head. I've supported the city's efforts of Affordable Housing Task Force and the first ever Affordable Housing Listening Session. I support a system-based approach that connects resources for family of all sizes. This includes a tenant and landlord resource center, reinvestment opportunities for neighborhoods, and funding a library social worker position that help people navigate complex housing circumstances, which was just recognized by our current governor, Tony Evers, as an innovative solution for all of Wisconsin.
Thank you. I'm David Klinkhammer. I've served on the council for 11 years up until last April. This question, I guess I didn't read as being specific to affordable housing. The question that we're dealing with is housing. Right now, the city of Eau Claire has more per capita affordable housing than just about any city in the region. We have a need for more housing. Single family, good neighborhoods. So it isn't just affordable housing. And in the discussions I've had about affordable housing, it seems that there's a vague mixture of subsidized housing and affordable housing. But the real question is adequate housing, period. I think from the standpoint of the city council's role in ensuring adequate housing is to, number one, facilitate the process of developing neighborhoods, making sure that as plans come forward for residential developments, that the needs of the community are met. We just need to do a good job of reviewing developments as they come forward and helping both infill. We're done.
Thank you for coming tonight. My name is John Lohr. Affordable housing is a major concern in these communities. In fact, nationwide shortage of affordable housing, especially in the urban development. As a city, we can do things permanently established by affordable housing for all. Creative zoning, land trust, expanding public housing, all ways that the city can ensure that all residents have the accessible and safety in Eau Claire. I am a landlord who are renting several property to low-income families, to Western Delaware, Eau Claire Housing Authority, and the Hmong HMA in the communities. As a community, I think that we need to work together to encourage the landlord to step up to solve this problem, because the homeless population in Eau Claire have been up to 46%. So we need to get these problems solved by encourage current landlord to step up and helping us. City can develop a program that also to help educate consumer, like tenants, who have been bad record of their themselves because of the one thing that happened to them, they won't be able to pay for the rent. That's the thing that we need to have a education program that's available for them to do, and that's all I can do. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming tonight on this beautiful spring evening. I believe the city's role regarding housing is to work with private developers, addressing any zoning questions that may arise, changing any rules and regulations, taking a look at the whole process. To encourage private developers, we may also want to simplify the process of getting the permits. How can we make it easier and less of a burden for the small developer? So basically, I believe the city's role is to work with the private developers.
And I too want to thank you for coming out for the first beautiful spring evening day. Affordable housing is a relative term. When Deb and I were first married, we couldn't afford housing or couldn't afford our first house because interest rates were 16%. And those of you who are 66 like me, more or less, remember those years. We could afford a house if the interest rates would have been reasonable, but they weren't. The fact is that affordable housing is a relative term. Has to do with wages of the family. 30% or less is considered affordable. I did some numbers, ran some numbers. One of my tenants in a student rental that we own works full-time as a student and works part-time 20 hours a week at Menards, makes $12 an hour. If he was to work 40 hours a week, he would make $1,900 a month. That would give him the chance to have a $576 apartment. If he had a roommate or she, then it would even be reduced more than that. We need more inventory. What city council can do is to kick out the waste, because every home builder in this town wants to build more affordable homes. But the cost of permits, all that, the cost of regulation makes it prohibitive. We can kick out of the way these hardworking people to build more homes for people, get rid of some of the regulations, some of the redundancy, and that's what I will seek to do on council. Thank you.
My name's Dale Pointer, and I'm glad you're here as well. The Affordable Housing Report says if someone spends 30% or less of their income on housing, then that is considered affordable. So 30% of a, let's say, $15 an hour full-time wage is roughly $800 a month available for housing, and there's plenty of housing available in Eau Claire at that price point. In fact, Eau Claire's housing is more affordable than that in most other cities in our state, but incomes are lower. So encouraging growth in business to allow for higher earnings should be a part of really a broader solution to the larger problem. Addressing housing specifically, I do think that there's some thoughtful changes that maybe could happen in how we define single-family homes, lot size, building size, that sort of thing, so some other zoning requirements that might be helpful. I heard it said that one of the candidates here believes that it's the moral obligation of the city to house the poor. I guess I profoundly disagree. I think it's the moral obligation of individuals to take care of the poor. Government doesn't have any resources other than what it takes from taxpayers. And while I think the city needs to come alongside organizations that are busy about the business of helping people in need, I don't think that is the highest goal or purpose for government.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Can you hear me? My name is Kyle Woodman, and I do agree with a lot of the things some of the folks said here tonight about affordable housing. I don't know if I can say anything that you haven't heard already, being at the end of the line here, but what I will do is throw out some numbers here. The median income, according to Alice, which is what everyone is using to find how much poverty we have in our city, the 46% poverty in our city, where everybody's getting that number is from the Alice data. And so interestingly enough, if you look into the Alice data, it says the median income for folks in Eau Claire is $4,152 a month. The median income for folks all across Wisconsin is $4,734 a month, which is actually $582 more than where we're at here in Eau Claire. If you look at 14 other Alice states, the median income is at $5,058. So that's $900 more than where we're at for incomes here in Eau Claire. So affordable housing, I mean, what is affordable? If you don't have a job, a $25 a month house is not affordable. So, I mean, what's affordable and not affordable is really depends on how much money you make. So I do agree with Laura Benjamin on the entrepreneurship, bringing jobs and businesses into the area and increasing wages to get wages up so we can afford housing. There's other things we can do like rezoning downtown and creating other opportunities for cheaper homes, but really I think ultimately we need to raise the incomes of everyone in our city. So,
Thank you, candidates. It's time for our second question, and this time we'll reverse the order. So, Mr. Woodman, you'll get to be the first one heard from, and then we'll go the opposite direction that we just went. Eau Claire is growing, and its downtown is on the upswing, seeing increased development, visitors, traffic, and more. How can the city ensure that we handle potential traffic congestion and needed parking while maintaining a positive pedestrian experience?
well, I think we have spent a lot of time downtown recently. We've redone a few streets just last year. So there's not going to be a whole lot we can do, particularly on the streets. But what we can do is we can make sure we're enforcing our parking laws. I know we have some drop-off zones, trucks coming in, dropping off things. And these areas along these downtown streets are for people to pull in and access these businesses and help these businesses. So if you got somebody pulling in there and parking and they're there for all day and it's not being enforced, that's going to create a problem. So we got a lot of trails, we got a lot of walking downtown. I think it's great. I love the trails, I love the bike trails, the bridges and everything else. But I think that one piece of the puzzle is parking enforcement and making sure that we have some organization downtown. So, of course, taking money from our parking enforcement fund last year probably is not going to help that. So, but anyways, I think that, you know, we got 2 parking ramps downtown. There's a lot of places to park. But I just think that making sure everything is organized, any new construction, we have organization, we're thinking of these things in advance. I think that would do us a lot of good.
Much of the recent development downtown has been hugely successful, particularly for pedestrian and bicycle traffic. But less attention has been paid to vehicular traffic and parking. Cutting the parking enforcement to fund a consultant on participatory budgeting, I'll say that again, participatory, was a short-sighted measure, and I think it was hugely detrimental to the downtown businesses that rely on parking turnover. The downtown bids and DECI urged the council not to make the change, but that relatively responsible recommendation fell on deaf ears. The lack of parking enforcement also affects neighborhoods surrounding downtown, such as Randall Park and the 3rd Ward, who also count on enforcement. Providing better vehicular access into downtown is a difficult solution, or a difficult problem to find a solution to, but it's important. And providing adequate parking downtown, particularly also for disabled and elderly, I think ought to be as high a priority for the city as making special concessions for bicycles.
This is Don again. And one of the things about the parking enforcement is, as much as I hate getting a parking ticket, or any ticket for that matter, they basically pay for themselves. The parking enforcement is revenue neutral. So that is something that it not only helps the businesses in terms of churn when they're depending on walk-in, whether restaurateurs or retailers, they need new customers coming in. And so that parking enforcement pays for itself by people like me that overstay their welcome on the street, as much as I hate that. 2 large parking ramps certainly is enough for off-street parking, I think, for what we have right now. Let's let that percolate, let that mature, let the rest of the city, absorb that. When the Confluence project is absolutely completed with all the trails and everything else, quite frankly, I can't imagine how it could be, the pedestrian experience could be improved, except for perhaps a few more ice cream shops.
No, okay. Again, I am Kate Martin. The current city council took money from parking enforcement. That is something that should always be fully funded. We should listen to the people who live in the neighborhoods and the drivers who daily are in the congested areas. What makes sense and what can we as a city afford? Where will the money come from? Have there been any pedestrian studies done? We are already dangerously below the state and national average for police officers per capita in Eau Claire. That department was denied the funds to hire additional officers, again, by the current council. I believe that the safety of our city benefits everyone.
John Lord again. The city has established a long range of which was developed over time in putting together by sector of communities. In addition, there is a bicycle pedestrian committee advisor, which we should consult as we face potentially for work that we have traffic congestion and needed. The public also should be encouraged to utilize existing parking garages, which are affordable, 50 cents per hour. We compare to St. Paul, Minnesota, or Chicago, that you pay $25 an hour. The public Also should encourage you to utilize the public transportation. Remote lot shuttle service could be utilized for major event. Safe and accessible pedestrian and bicycle roads should be also part of the planning committee in downtown Eau Claire. Thank you.
It would seem to me that using good planning principles and taking the time to approve new developments as they come forward, ensuring that our city's parking regulations, not regulations, but parking demands for various businesses would provide adequate parking. And I'd have to say that I have not experienced a too short a supply of parking. In terms of a pedestrian experience, how far do you want to go? Do you want to turn Barstow into a pedestrian mall? I don't think we're at that point yet. But certainly, there are a lot of things that can be done, and there's a lot more technology coming down the road that is going to make being a pedestrian safer and more enjoyable. I read an article a couple years ago that saying that cities that are building parking ramps are going to find them empty because everybody's going to be using Uber or Lyft or whatever, and there will not be the demand for parking that we're seeing now. And improving mass transit would always certainly help. Your turn.
Thank you. Well, I want to clear up a few inaccuracies that I've already heard tonight. While it is true that members of DECI did come and speak before the City Council, they also said that the parking enforcement as it was is not actually working. And so I think it's not smart to keep putting good money after a bad idea that's not working. The other is that there was no denial of any police department new positions. That really is a broader policy question that should be answered. We certainly need more staff in our community, including police and fire. However, $25,000 will not fix that. What we have to fix is our broken levy limits at the state. And that's probably going to have to come in the form of a referendum. And our community is going to have some real talks about that, because currently the way that cities and local governments are funded cannot keep up with the increase of costs to run a good community. So that out of the way, I want to share a couple of experiences. As I serve on DECI, I also serve on the infrastructure committee that's dedicated to pedestrian-friendly and wayfinding signs. What we're looking to do is really help improve that pedestrian experience to make it positive for them, because in turn it will be positive for businesses, because it slows down that traffic and allows more people to come and give the local dollar to the mom and pop shops in our community. I also am proud of another type of transportation of bike shares that we recently passed to help curb some additional cars off the streets and help people ride bikes and even walk a little more.
Hey everyone, Laura Benjamin again. If there's one thing I've learned in being a business owner for 8 years and in working in marketing for 15 years, it's that you can't improve what you don't measure. Without data, we're making a lot of assumptions, and I think that City Council is on the right path by endorsing putting together a study of how people are using downtown for both their cars and for pedestrian traffic. And so to understand that and to look at recommendations that are made from a professional report, it's going to help us understand what's changing about downtown and how we can best accommodate and plan for people to make the most of that experience. In addition to that, I think it's extremely important that we listening to the businesses that are downtown and the kinds of experiences that they're having, where people are moving past their buildings, how people are walking through, where they're having difficulty parking. Listen to the expert opinions of someone that does a researched report, but then also listening to the public and how they're starting to use that downtown space as it continues to change, so that, you know, as the downtown grows, we can adapt that plan forward. It's not Band-Aid that we're just going to one-time fix it and it's done. This is a living, breathing downtown, and it's something that will adapt over time. And the best thing we can do is start with a baseline of data to understand what we need to do to continue that improvement. Thank you.
Hello. It occurred to me that I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kate Beaton, and I am an incumbent. I have served on the Eau Claire City Council since 2016. And first I'll say that this problem really exists in the first place because we have such a growing and vibrant downtown and a growing and vibrant community. We once had a 60% vacancy rate in downtown, and I'm really proud that we've come so far to be considering this as such a big issue in the first place. We've created a place where people want to be and where they want to park their car and walk along the street and shop in the shops downtown. We don't have many places like that anymore in Eau Claire or across the nation, and I'm really proud that we're trying to expand on that. But while we do have this problem, I'm really proud that it's the issue of parking and not of a dying downtown. So I just wanted to say that first. But as you know, as this is an issue that needs to be addressed, I've been supportive of parking enforcement, but putting that parking enforcement dollars in the right places. Number of parking tickets does not equal success of our parking enforcements. So I support continuing to invest in parking infrastructure, but more than that, I want to focus on how to get people out of their cars, get them exercising, meeting their neighbors, reducing their needs for parking in the first place. I've been a strong advocate for bicycle infrastructure and expanding our transit system to both reduce the need for parking and reduce congestion in our downtown, but also reduce the emission of fossil fuels and improving our community's health and connectivity. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Kirk Osmond, and I was president of the Eau Claire Regional Arts Council and a member of the design committee for the Pablo Center. And we looked at parking when we were doing the Pablo Center, and believe it or not, there are a lot of parking spaces downtown. We have not only the 2 large ramps, we have a smaller ramp on Graham Avenue, and the other lots that are just across the Eau Claire River, and then the lots that are on Farwell Street. The problem is that people have to know where they are and how to get in and out. One of the biggest problems during an event is that people go to an event and then everybody trying to get out of a parking ramp has to line up and one by one pay a token or whatever they pay into the machine, and it takes forever. So we need to relook at how we do event parking. We should be able to do something a lot easier, maybe even with a thing like Uber, where you go online and just collect it off from your credit card online. But we can do that. Now, the other thing, we may want to re-examine one-way streets. For the safety of the pedestrians crossing streets, you only have to look one direction instead of 2 directions and then try to scurry between cars. So that may be another thing we want to look at. And then the way we drop people off at the Pablo Center, again, that has to be a little smoother, but that's something we can work out.
Thank you, candidates. This next round of questions will start in the middle. We'll have Mr. Klinghammer answer the question first. We'll go down this row, then come back to Mr. Osmond and end with Ms. Emanuel. And I'll help if that gets confusing along the way. So as we've heard, much of the city's attention has been focused on downtown revitalization. But candidates, what other community areas and issues should also have the city council's attention? And again, Mr. Klinghammer, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I think that there are probably 3, maybe 4 areas of our community that are going to be of attention. If the term cannery district is not a part of your normal conversation, it is the West Riverside project north of Madison Street on the west side of the Chippewa River. That is going to become an area that will need a lot of attention, especially in the area of housing. So that will be one thing. I think that the university and the Sonnentag development down on Menominee Street between the hockey arena, and Claremont is going to be an exciting project, but that's not going to happen tomorrow or anything. It's going to be several years as that unfolds. I think one of the areas, we talk about downtown revitalization, and that is an exciting project, and there's going to be more downtown redevelopment going on. But I think the fourth factor would be neighborhood revitalization. We need to pay more attention. We were fortunate that we established a TIF district specifically for that, raised funding for neighborhood revitalization, and we were one of the first cities to do that.
Mr. Lohr.
The city council is a foster economic development, business maintenance, and commercial growth throughout the city, not just in downtown Eau Claire. To do this, the city council must continue to provide adequate and balanced inventories of balance and zoning location for further growth need for industrial, office, or retail. The desired outcome or higher household income, lower unemployment, great job security, and increasing opportunity for all. I believe that the city council need to work collaboratively together with private industry, regional economic development partnership, and state and federal agencies to promote investment in this project that will create good quality employment opportunity for the area, the resident, strong tax base that will support public facility services, local business development. The city need to provide competitive wage, benefit, recruiting, and retention high-skilled workforce because of baby boomer is retiring right now. Thank you.
Hi again, Kate Martin. I believe that any issue brought by any neighborhood or area should be heard and then prioritized and decided on what it's going to cost in time and money and importance. What will it cost the city council in time to consider, and what will it cost the taxpayer in dollars? How many of our citizens will really be affected? Is this something that's best for the city without being a burden to the taxpayer? So basically, what makes sense?
Don Motzing again. My passion on council will be to recruit new business to this area. I was talking to a business that a multi-spot or not multi-place business several weeks ago, where they have a presence in the town of Washington and in two in the town or the city of Eau Claire. And the city or the town of Washington had twice the footprint, twice the employees, twice the revenue compared to the location or the business sister business in the city of Eau Claire, and they were paying $8,000 a year in property taxes less in the town of Washington. So we have a heavy burden to overcome. The tax levy, the tax burden on the part of people who want to move to Eau Claire with their business. However, we've got several wonderful opportunities that are shovel ready, and those in the industrial parks where the infrastructure is already there. So there would be less investment to get those properties from planning to turnkey in our industrial areas. So that is what I want as well, is to be the point person or a point person on council to work with our city staff in economic development, as well as the chamber and business leaders in town, because that's what my passion is recruiting businesses, new businesses to Eau Claire.
I'm still Dale Pointer. Of course, it's important to realize that the revitalization of downtown should and has led to the subsequent revitalization of adjacent neighborhood areas. The way I remember it, downtown's rebirth effectively started with RCU's commitment to locate downtown at NSP's abandoned brownfield site. And and at the confluence and the development of the aptly named Phoenix Park, and a domino effect of substantial development has followed, including major hotel renovations, condominiums, and corporate headquarters, all of which might not have happened if RCU's commitment had not been elsewhere. And I don't work for RCU. And development should continue outward, as was mentioned with the cannery districts on a tag, and even out to neighborhood revitalization. I believe that's important. I do think that there are other areas of town that deserve special mention. I mean, there's more to do downtown, but I feel somewhat like downtown's getting all the attention, and there's places like Kmart and Oakwood Mall and now Shopko that may need some creative intervention by innovators and developers willing to take the risk. And I don't know exactly how this happens, to be honest, but the city needs to be equally creative without taking on so much of the risk, and encouraging and supporting the efforts of anyone willing to come forward. And I would say if parking enforcement doesn't work, then let's improve parking enforcement or fix it rather than getting rid of it.
All right. I think everybody knows who I am by now. I did want to quick say something about the parking downtown that I forgot to mention earlier about removing the snow. I think in some of the surrounding cities, what they do is they take the snow and they just bring it to the middle, and they take that big snow blower and they blow it into the dump trucks and they get it out of there. Like, it's getting better now, but last week or the week before and this last month, of course, we had a lot of snow. But I think that would be something that would really help parking downtown. It was pretty bad a few weeks ago. So it's like, maybe we should, as a city, decide, hey, let's do something different with the snow. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Weird looks. All right. The question is, much of the city's attention has been focused on downtown revitalization. What other community areas and issues should the city council also have? I don't want to sound too old-fashioned, but I think that aside from things that we are going to be doing, like the Cannery District and the Menominee Street project, we just really need to focus on the core services of the city. I think that in the last year, for sure, we've been hearing a lot about how, I got written down here, the 2019 budget process, we heard from the city manager and department heads about how staffing has not been keeping up with increasing demands for the services that we need. We have fewer employees now than we did in 1980. So I just think that we really need to get back to the basics and focus on the things that the city should be focusing on, like roads, snow plowing, infrastructure, as well as continuing our momentum downtown. It's all great, but we just really need to focus on the things that are important.
Mr. Hausman.
Hello again. I kind of agree with Dale Pointer in the, one of the things coming down the road will be what's going to happen at the big box stores that have gone out of business. We've seen that at Kmart already, which can easily become a blighted area. It doesn't take long for a large parking lot to get weeds and then start looking really bad. And so the city may have to find ways to either repurpose places like the Kmart and the Shopko, because that mall will be empty soon. And once they become blighted, it affects everything around it. And that's, I think, the next thing coming down the road. All the other things that we're doing are very good and are working out well. And just keep that on the radar and be aware of it and see what we can do.
So first, I want to recognize that the effort to revitalize downtown has been an amazing investment that really has helped our entire community as a whole. It's drawn workforce here, both in employees and employers. It's keeping young professionals here who are educated right here at our university, who have decided to stay here like I have. And it's generated this nationally known art scene. And so I don't want to undermine what that downtown revitalization has done for our community. But now that we have that time, those time and resources to kind of step back and take a look at how we can see success in or facilitate success in other parts of our city, like we've seen in downtown, we can really start to and continue to listen to our neighbors around the city who've said that they feel a little bit left out, and so that's why we're investing right now on projects like the Northside Dog Park, the Cannery District, all projects that seek to address other community issues like poverty and community connectivity and health. But most of all, we need to continue to improve our quality of life in Eau Claire. That's why companies like Jamf and Drylock and others have decided to come here and invest in our community and provide really good paying jobs. And so I'd like to see our city continue to invest in those quality of life measures, like investing in our parks, cleaning up our rivers, investing in our bike trail system and stuff like that. Most of all, I want to make sure that we are ensuring that this success touches everyone, and so that we're not seeing a story of two cities where some folks can participate in this success.
Laura Benjamin, and now I get to talk about something that's near and dear to me, which is entrepreneurship. What I think entrepreneurship does for our community, if we're able to put together a committee that unifies community resources that already exist, things like the Chamber, the EDC, private businesses, Western Dairyland that are thinking forward about our community and how we help it grow. It looks at things. There's ways that we can say entrepreneurs can look at the Kmart and Shopko, these buildings that are going to be empty, and think outside the box, ways to innovate and help to grow new business and new opportunity in those spaces. It does things like create a more woven community of businesses that are more tied to our city, so that it's called economic gardening. It's the idea that rather than bringing in new businesses, which are from outside, which is very important, if we look at one or two key strategic businesses to attract and bring in, and then fill the rest of that with more organically homegrown businesses, it's pretty amazing the kinds of results that other mid-sized cities have seen as a result of these sorts of policies. And so what I want to do is look at building that committee, looking at developing policy that helps to encourage people to start new businesses, hire local, pay living wages, and stay local, so that they can continue to create new opportunities in the city and bring revenue from outside Eau Claire back here. Thank you.
One of the things that's going to happen on April 2nd is no matter who is elected, we're still going to have a relatively new city council. And one of the things that I think is really important is that our community takes a leadership role between citizens and council members to get to know one another. I think that there's a sense of fear of, oh no, there's a new council. And I've been on for almost 6.5 years, and I am still learning things. And instead of being afraid of each other or something new, I think we have to be intentional about figuring out how can we find what we have in common and work in that sphere. That is really, really important, and will help our entire community thrive if we can figure out how do we welcome and accept one another, no matter who's serving. A couple of other maybe more traditional things to take on in a community. I serve currently as the chair of the Destination Development Committee for Visit Eau Claire. And in my last about 6 years on serving on the Visit Eau Claire board, we have increased the room tax revenue that's increased by about $400,000 every year. That's really important when we think about bringing in an events and convention center, because it's going to increase the room tax that we'll have every night in our community, which then in turn helps to fund some of our infrastructure projects and community projects without going to the traditional tax base.
Thank you, candidates. For this fourth and final question, we'll just reverse the order that we just did. So Ms. Emanuel, you will start. It'll come back around to Mr. Klinkhammer to wrap it up. The recent city budgeting process included several amendments changing the budget during final deliberations, including a new citizen-based budgeting process. What are your thoughts on the appropriate process for developing and adopting the city budget?
Over the last 10 years, council members have passed amendments that support organizations, capital improvement projects, and supporting city boards and commissions, a transfer center, and many more successful amendments. It is the proper role of any elected body to make budget amendments. This year, we continue to have room to improve, and I've said that every year that I've served on the city council. It's not a diss, it's just a good thing to do, is figure out how do you get better at what you do. So this year, after over four public meetings, including adding for the first year ever a meeting for council members to share budget amendments, which was about 3.5 weeks before the final vote was taken, council members presented budget amendments. So I reject the mischaracterization of last-minute budget amendments. What our community needs is leadership from everyone that moves from blaming to seeking to understand one another. For the library positions, I understand the library has long desired these positions and was supported by the president and vice president and library planning documents. I've got thick shoulders, and if you want to lob more inaccurate stories, I can take it. And more than shoulders, I have big arms and a really big heart that's open-minded and willing to work with anyone for solutions that help solve really complex social problems in our community.
I look at budgeting as a reflection of our values and our mission. It's a fiscal way that we put a dollar amount to the priorities that we see in our community. And it requires a certain amount of give and take, and it requires negotiation. And I do think that the right way to address amendments is to open those things up to public forum, to get input from other people, and to go through that process as has been done in the recent budgeting approach. So I always think about it like we need to align our budget with our community goals, look at our priorities in the community and figure out where we can have the biggest impact, and act sustainably to ensure that we have a positive future for all sectors in neighborhoods and in businesses in Eau Claire. Thanks.
Hello. I took this question largely as a process question, and while it's important that we're using the right process in our budgeting, I believe, like Laura, that our budget is a statement of our values, and I have been really, really proud that I see the Eau Claire City Council budget as really closely aligning with the Eau Claire value that we take care of one another. I've seen that happen over and over in our community. And out of $100 million, I supported a $180,000 amendment that's less than 1% to create 2 library positions, both to address literacy and community resources. That's something I'm so proud of. And that's what I really want to be talking about. This amendment was brought forward as an idea of the library director, and it was supported by the library board president. It had broad community support, and it also had the support of our governor, who was here earlier this month to highlight these positions and talk about how we can replicate them around the state so that those positions like what we have here in Eau Claire now can also serve people throughout the state. We can talk about process all we want, and I'm committed to finding the best process if we're not already at it yet. But when we have negative 50-degree weather, my priority is making sure that people have a place to sleep at night and have food to eat to put on the table of their families. I'm incredibly proud of what we've done in the budgeting process, especially with the library positions. Thank you.
Even if you think you went through the process, it was a surprise to many people. My problem with it is not that the positions were created necessarily. There's been studies to show that these types of positions are useful. My problem is that it was never studied by staff to indicate whether the money is being spent effectively. How many people are we impacting? Is it a necessary balance between how much we're spending and how many people we're helping? What other services are already provided by other agencies? There's literacy volunteers, there's literacy work going on at the university, there's all kinds of programs through the county, and all they need is somebody to direct them to those programs. So in the process, we did not study the impact on the total budget, how that would affect other things in the budget, and where we really going to be using that money effective? And so we should revisit it.
Mr. Woodman, you're next.
Okay, sorry. All right. We spent a lot of discussion about the budget process last year. I'd say there's a lot of people that are really proud of it and a lot of people that are really upset about it. I've been out talking to everybody, so it's you hear both sides. So I guess my stance on it is they took $25,000 to fund the participatory budget, which is cool and everything. But I mean, I don't know if, I just feel like you're taking $25,000 and saying, hey, you guys get to decide what to do with this. When in reality, it sounds cool, but in reality, we have a $128 million budget that you guys should be deciding what we're doing with, okay? So, I mean, that's just how I feel about it. So I think that I would rather get feedback from everybody on how to spend the $128 million, not give you guys $25,000 to say, what would you like to do with that? So that's just a different perspective, but we got the $179,000 and $800 that they took from contractual services for the library positions. I guess I don't know if I agree or disagree with the positions, but you know, like I said, I've been hearing all different things from all the residents, and I guess the main thing that I want to make sure everybody knows is that when it comes to passing the budget, I just want to make sure everybody knows what's going on and that there's no surprises next year. I guess that's my main point when it comes to the budget. So.
I guess my surprise is that our budget gets dictated so much perhaps by amendments rather than the budget itself. I think it's the city manager's responsibility to develop and propose a budget, which is then considered and voted on by the council. During the proper period of deliberations related to city personnel, both the police and IT departments did request additional positions. Perhaps it wasn't at a council meeting, but they needed to deal with an increase in their required tasks. And it was determined that these could not be accommodated. Very late in the game, I would say several council members, including those running for re-election, chose to introduce new positions at the library, which were neither requested by the library staff nor by the city manager. And if they wanted them but didn't request them, then they shouldn't have gone about the business of getting them this way. There was not one single publicly noticed meeting on the topic. There was also the adoption of the budgetary policy consultant, which we talked about, which removed parking enforcement downtown. The correct process for these changes would have been to make a proposal in a timely manner directing the city manager to appropriate funds for these positions so they could be planned and budgeted for in an appropriate manner. This would have included adequate discussion during council sessions, ample opportunity for public communication and input, followed by adoption by council resolution.
Since the city manager is tasked with going to all department heads across the city to seek what their needs are and present to council a balanced budget, that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort on the part of Mr. Peters and all the departments, all the stakeholders in each department to come up with what they need and how does it all fit together. Quite frankly, I've never been a part of an organization where I, as a voting member of an organization, couldn't add or make a motion about something to add at any time during the year in which a conversation is taking place or legislation is being done. So I don't understand why it has to come at a certain particular time. Perhaps I'll learn that there's a new way of doing it on council if I'm so chosen to be on council. But what this does is that cause chaos on the part of staff and Mr. Peters to realign and to recalibrate the whole budget. And I will not advance any motion or amendment that substantially and support any motion or amendment that substantially changes, a motion that substantially changes the budget in the final analysis. I can give you my solemn promise that I will not do that at the 11th hour and 59th minute. Thank you.
So the question is, what are your thoughts on the appropriate price process? My thoughts are, we have an appropriate process. It was just not followed by the current council. We need to allow enough time for review and questions and public input. A current council member said after months of deliberation, they decided on the library positions. When I believe in reality, I heard it was brought as a suggestion to the council in November. I believe the potential actions of any city council should be transparent. For participatory budgeting, no public information was given, as I understand it. I also understand from a current council member that the members did not know what was going to get cut from the budget until right before they had to vote on it. You are free to fact check with other current council members. So, my thoughts on the appropriate process: we have a process. We just need to follow it.
For the city budget process for the city of Eau Claire, it's important that it represents the missions and the visions and the future of the city of Eau Claire. The process developed in the city budget need to be open and transparent with adequate opportunity for city staff and public review and the budget that provide input to the budget priority. It makes several changes in the last deliberations that is not in the spirit of open, transparent, and playful processes. Sometimes critical need arrive at the last minute, and city council need to be flexible while allowing the public to view and input. I am myself consider a business person, owners, entrepreneur in real estate business rental. Budget process is part of what my business to be successful or fail. It is important to keep flexible quickly and adapt or change meet the need and the desire of the business. That's how, as city council, I will be looking at it, what need to be done now. And that's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. I will agree with Ms. Martin. I'm looking into the audience, and I see a number of people out there that were deeply involved in the budget process, developing budgets, approving budgets, debating the budgets. The process works. There's as Ms. Martin stated, the city manager is charged with the responsibility of presenting a balanced budget to the council. Okay, that budget process goes on for almost 6 months. We have work sessions, we had community discussions. There's a limited amount of money available for discretionary changes. Who was manipulating it? That's the question. It wasn't the process. Well, it was the goal of what wanted to be done. I'll address that more in my closing remarks, but the budget process as it's designed works, and works well.
So that concludes the portion of the evening in which the candidates are answering questions. So what remains is the closing statements. And again, each candidate has 90 seconds. In this case, we're going to start with Ms. Martin, work our way down the table, come back to Mr. Hausman, work our way down this table, and finish with Mr. Lohr. So Ms. Martin, your closing statement, please.
Okay. I thought our budget was 120 million. Kyle says it's 128 million. Either way, where's that money going? As a council member, I would use common sense and fiscal responsibility. I would make sure our earned tax dollars are spent wisely. And it's important we do that because we have limited resources. The city council does not have a bottomless pit of money, but everybody wants their hand in the cookie jar. My priorities would be enhancing the safety, departments, and staff of our great city. I would keep personal agendas and special interests in check. I guarantee you I have no personal agenda for running for city council and no special interest groups supporting me. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe we should even consider term limits on the city council. But I would just like to bring balance back to the city council for you. So if you are not pleased, as many of us who are running are not, there is a way to fix that. There's a way. Please vote April 2nd. Again, thank you for having me tonight.
Deb and I came here 30 years ago, and we still live in the same house, raised 2 kids who are Eagle Scouts. What citizens are telling me when I'm out and about is that they're very concerned about the lack of balance, the agenda-driven, partisan-oriented council right now. I joined the campaign to simply allow myself, who's got decades of work and living and tax-paying experience, as a person to bring some of that balance back, some of that common sense balance back. Next week, many of you are going to get this card from me in the mail. And on here, I put in writing what my decision hierarchy or my decision-making guidelines are going to be. And in writing, so that you'll be able to see it forever, as long as you don't throw it out too quickly. I want to, number 1, advocate for the taxpayer. Number 2, champion limited government spending. Number 3, focus like a laser on only local issues rather than state and federal issues. And then 4th, I want to prioritize core services such as police and fire services, as well as streets and safety and what the taxpayers are actually paying for. And if there's money left over after those priorities, then we can have fun with that. Those are my priorities. Thank you, and I hope if you agree with those priorities and you would like that person on council, I will receive your vote in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
If you really want to know more about me, please go to dalepointer.com. Up until the past year, I confess that I naively presumed that the city government just went about doing the things the city government should do, protecting its citizens and their rights, maintaining streets, promoting business. There have been several strange issues happen over the past year, but the straw that broke this camel's back was when I read an article in which Acting President Worthman spun the results of last fall's non-binding referendum on marijuana use and made it appear that a large majority were in favor of removing all restrictions on cannabis, and then used that false premise to propose and then enact a reduction of Eau Claire's fine for possession to $1. From that time on, I've become increasingly aware of a seemingly endless list of personal and special interest agenda items introduced by self-proclaimed activist council. Budgetary end runs, improper procedural processes, and finally a lack of public input opportunity and transparency on a number of important issues that were never properly discussed or allowed meaningful public input just added to the mix. I believe the existing council has lost its way, allowing personal agendas to distract them from the legitimate priorities they should be dealing with. I want to bring an experienced voice of reason to the table, and I hope to be one of many voices on the council, since one person alone will not be able to restore the needed balance or bring back order and thoughtfulness to the processes and decisions which will continue to affect all the citizens of Eau Claire.
I guess I'm not as organized as some of the others and have all their stuff all typed up here, but I guess one of the main things that I want to let everybody know about me is I don't have any type of agenda except for representing the people of the city, which is what the council is supposed to do. Especially since we're an at-large representative, we're supposed to represent the whole city. And so that's why I've taken the stance that I've taken on some of the issues. If you go to my website, kylewoodman.com, you'll see where I'm at on a lot of the issues. Some of them may not align exactly with the way I was raised, and you know, they may be different from some of the things I may even believe in myself. But I want to represent the people, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to just get on the council and say, "Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that," and represent just a couple folks. We're supposed to do what's best for everyone, and that means, especially the folks that are paying the money, take care of them. And so I guess I just, you know, maybe I sound old-fashioned, but, you know, I just think that's what it should be. So I do have a couple things here. If I get on the council, I'm just going to really make sure that we focus on the core services of the city, which is what the city council is supposed to be doing, like protecting the service, the police, protecting the people with the police and fire services, the roads, the snow plowing, public infrastructure. And so, oh, it says stop. But I just want to say that if you want a common sense approach to things, fiscal responsibility, economic growth, and open and transparent government, and someone that's willing to work with everyone from both sides of the aisle, I would really appreciate your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Again, my name's Kirk Osmond, and I just want to say we have the best city in the United States. And though we may have a lot of disagreements, this is a heck of a nice place to live and raise a family. We need ideas, young ideas. We need to look at them. We need technology. We have to be ready for the future. The future does belong to the young. And they'll have to live with it. Whatever we do now, they're going to live with it. So to temper what happens, we need some knowledge of the past that comes from experience, so that if an issue comes up that may have been hashed over 40, 50 years ago, why hash over it again if somebody already knows that, well, you know, we tried that. We can look at it from different angles, and maybe you have a good angle to look at it, but let's take a look at it. Let's not just try to push it on to people. So I want you to vote on April 2nd for me, because I have that experience from many years on neighborhood associations, Eau Claire Housing Advisory Board, ECRAC, and so I can bring that experience to the council. And hopefully, you know, when we start talking about new ideas, I can hopefully help out, and maybe we can do something new, but hopefully we do it right. Thank you.
Hello, I am Kate Beaton. I wanted to take a minute to thank the sponsors of this event and the media, as well as all of you for joining us, and all of those who are listening at home. I am running for a second term of the Eau Claire City Council. In my day job, I work for a nonprofit that works on statewide policy to protect our natural resources, and so I bring experience both at the local and state level to solve a variety of different issues. If I'm elected, I'll be the third or fourth most senior member on the Eau Claire City Council, and so I think that bringing that experience is really important here, especially for a new council. I came to Eau Claire as a UW Eau Claire student. I graduated and decided to stay here. I bought a house here, and I'm investing here. And I want that for everybody in our community. As a candidate, I do bring a personal agenda. I call it my vision for the city of Eau Claire. I believe that we all bring that personal agenda or a vision. I pledge to you to be transparent about it. And to tell you what it is, I've been a strong advocate for poverty solutions and affordable housing. I've been committed to protecting our environment, cleaning up our rivers and our parks, and making sure that everyone has a voice both in City Hall and in the polling booth. I really look forward to talking to you all at the end of the forum. I've honestly heard a lot of inaccuracies and really want to jump on correcting them, but I only have a 1.5 minutes. But you can learn more about me at votekatebeaton.com or on Facebook, and I ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
My name is Laura Benjamin. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and for the media and for CBTC for hosting. I moved here in 1999 to attend UW Eau Claire, and I fell in love with this area. I saw opportunity. I took a job. I eventually got to the point where I started a business, and I see so many ways that our community can move forward. I want other people to have that same experience, to come here, see what Eau Claire has to offer for them, and to help them build their lives in our community. And so with that, I ask, what is a leader? You know, I'm still learning the government process, and I'm still learning the ins and outs of how the system works. But what I do know is that as an entrepreneur, I've understood that leadership is listening to your clients, listening to your customers, and understanding what's going to help your business be successful in their lives. It's listening to your employees and understanding what they need out of an employer-employee relationship. It's setting a budget and understanding that, you know, for the past 8 years, I've had to balance all these different interests in setting a reasonable budget for all these different areas of growth in my business. And so I think that a servant leader is one that listens to a lot of different ideas, makes those critical decisions, and thinks about it in a way that is socially responsible and also fiscally responsible, so that we're not unbalancing either aspect of our community. So that's why I'd be honored with your vote on April 2nd if you choose to elect me. So I really appreciate your time, and you can learn more about me at lauraec.com or on Facebook. Thank you so much.
With the help of citizens and the valiant work of city staff, I've been able to provide leadership to help our city thrive. I'm Catherine Emanuel, and I want to talk to you about some of my accomplishments. I've helped to welcome JAMP's International Employee Conference and helped to create the first keys to the city in many, many years. I've improved quality of life, including authoring a food truck ordinance that has been very successful. I've introduced the idea to get books on all buses that are free for everybody. I've been a champion for civic engagement initiatives, including support for Clear Vision Eau Claire, the first ever public comment period for any issue that anybody wants to talk about to the city council. And I was super honored to be the representative from the city to receive the All-America City Award. It's like the Grammys for civic engagement. I've also prioritized poverty alleviation efforts, including making notations within the comprehensive plan. I authored language that reduced the red tape for people who need a reduced fare bus pass. And I've also helped to author budget amendments that have addressed food insecurity and helped local farmers. On top of all of this, every year I've voted to pass a balanced budget that is required by state law. I've supported excellent city infrastructure, public transportation, economic development, city employees, and our local arts economy. If re-elected, I'll provide leadership that empowers citizens, supports public-private partnerships, affordable housing, and higher-paying jobs. I'm committed to helping our community thrive, and I ask for your vote. That's Catherine Emanuel on April 2nd. Thank you.
My name is David Klinkhammer, and I appreciate everyone that worked putting this together. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and speak to so many of you. I mentioned earlier that I had served 11 years on the council, and during those 11 years, I had the distinct honor of working with some very, very dedicated and capable people. We were able to do some extraordinary things in that time frame. We had a period of great growth and development downtown. Did we all agree? Because that 11 people changed fairly frequently. No, we did not all agree. But that didn't prevent us from being a highly effective group, very highly functional. We talked about issue with the library and the budget process. The underlying issue there is, one thing I learned over those 11 years is that the council and the staff have to work not hand in glove, but they have to have confidence in one another. They have to have faith in one another, that we are all working for a common goal. So that level of balance is desperately needed. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, my name is John Lohr. I'm an immigrant to Eau Claire. Back in 1989, I lived here for the last 30 years. Remember that we are, as a city council, we serve more than 70 or more thousand of residents who are living in these communities, including the minorities populations such as Hmong, Latinos, African Americans, Native Americans. All city council shall need to be nonpartisan. I know that affordable housing is a major concern for the city of Eau Claire. In fact, nationwide also ensures affordable housing, especially in the urban development growth. As a city, we need to do things permanent and establish affordable housing for all residents living in Eau Claire. I will make sure that Eau Claire is not stay competitive, but can be models and community that people continue to live here and safe for us. I will listen to your concern that brought to my attention. I will work hard to build this community to be safe and well for all the people that live in this community and the younger generation that stay here, want to raise their family in here. This is on my job as city council. I want to earn your vote on April 2nd. Please vote for me if you like my platforms. I will serve you as, and also your agenda also on my agenda, so I will work for you. Thank you.
Democracy depends on civil conversations and the ability to listen to different points of view without alienating one another and without alienating the people you serve. It is unusual that you can bring 10 candidates together who will sit in front of a room, answer questions that they get an hour before, and then be willing to sit and meet with people afterward. I'd like you to thank our candidates, if you would. Thank you to Valley Media Works, who is video recording the forum tonight. You can check their website at valleymediaworks.org for a schedule of rebroadcasts or to view it on demand. Tell your friends.
Thanks, Kate.
Also available on the Valley Media Works website are the recordings of the previous candidate forums, including City Council President and Eau Claire Area School Board. If you're a resident of Eau Claire, be sure to exercise your right to vote in the upcoming election. Early voting is now open through March 29th at the downtown Eau Claire Elections Office during regular business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Due to renovations, the elections office is located through the alleyway behind 203 South Farwell Street. Parking is available at the lot accessed off Dewey Street. Election day is Tuesday, April 2nd. Polls will be open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. You can go to myvote.wi.gov for a location of your polling place. If you'd like to visit individually with the candidates in the next few minutes, they will be moving to the tables around the perimeter of the room for a meet and greet period, and candidates, we ask you to move to your table as soon as possible. Thank you for coming out this evening, and good night.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.